Welcome back, Pirate Crew. It's your captain, Yeehaw Yadam, and for today's video, or for let's say this week's videos, we're going to go ahead and start looking at OP03. Now, in OP02, we got about a month and a half left. That's a pretty good amount of time, maybe a little bit less than that, honestly. But with the fact that getting into regionals is so difficult, in-person events kind of dying down for a little bit for this regional season, let's start looking into the future. And I have been excited to kind of spice up the meta. And you know who better than doing that than Fire Fist Ace. So Portuguese D Ace is one of the leaders that I'm very excited about for OP03. It's one of the leaders that I've been, since announcement, been like, yep, I'm going to be playing Ace. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can play him. There's a lot of variety within this leader. So let's get to a quick little deck profile. We'll play some games and hopefully we can kind of understand what we are to expect from Ace in the future. Now, Portuguese D Ace, when this leader attacks or is being attacked, which is a very interesting little side note, you may trash any number of events and or stages from your hand. For each card you trash, this leader gains 1,000 during this battle. He can use this ability offensively and defensively. Now, this is one of the first abilities that's kind of like stagnant on a leader. It doesn't require Dawn ×1, doesn't require you to really do anything. It just, when attacking, I can attack for X amount and then pitch, or when I'm defending, I can just pitch all of these crazy amount of events and or stages that I'm playing. So we try to use that by playing the best events that we possibly can. So let's talk about the characters real quickly, and then we'll move on to the event list. Now, this list is one of the lists that I got from the OP TCG Top Decks website, where it topped in one of the Eastern Metas tournaments. Now, I'm not really sure if it was like a big tournament or not. I just got one just as a good base, a cookie cutter ace list. So we've got 4 Otamas. Again, she's not leaving. She's the best 2K in the game. I'm not even going to try to disagree or argue the fact that she should be in your deck. Just a 1 mana minus 2K power is really important. We got Jozu. Now that we are a Whitebeard's character pirate, or where our leader is a Whitebeard pirates, we can go ahead and use this offensively, so it makes for a very great 2K. It can get rushed, it can have that 2K power, it has a great stat line, so we use this guy. Now we got to play the ace in the ace deck, because again, since you are a Whitebeard pirates leader, you do get the bonus added rush effect from ace. Now he's one of the strongest characters. He's going to be our main attackers in the deck, as he has that 7K stat line. He goes and reduces. He's a board clear, he catches you up, because with a deck that has very little character count, you need these catch-up mechanics. You have to understand that the first couple of turns, you're just kind of conceding the board state. It just is what it is. And then once Ace comes down, he will become the equalizer in allowing you to go ahead and make the board state more fair. And then using Ace's ability that's very defensive, along with all of these defensive tools, you can go ahead and protect him and then use that to gain the tempo back in your favor. Now we're going to be using a maximum of the Marco. Now, Marco is a fantastic card. I think in OP02, we've all noticed, you know, that Whitebeard has moved. It's had a lot of success because of his second in command. Marco has become a great defensive tool. It's become a great offensive tool, whether it's the boat, whether it's the hybrid build. This card kind of always makes its way into the deck. Being a blocker that can revive itself is really useful, especially for a deck like this, where we're probably going to be taking all of our lives all the way until 2 and then defending heavily from there. Then we have the new additions to the deck. Like, all of this was something that we've already had from OP02, but we've now got Izo as well as the new Marco. So for those of you that don't know what Izo is, or who Izo is one of the characters that from the Whitebeard Pirates. He's also a Land of Wano character. That is the Nami for the deck. Now, this is a 2K 1-drop 1K counter. Look at the top 5 cards in my deck and find a Whitebeard's pirate type character other than Izo. So they gave the Whitebeard Pirates a Nami, which is terrifying. This is one of the reasons that the boat had to be banned. Is one of the reasons that, in general, Whitebeard did so well in OP03, the Eastern meta. And honestly, being able to add this card into any red deck is just a complete buff, because all of these very strong Whitebeard pirates aren't necessarily linked to the Whitebeard leader tagline, except for Ace. So we're going to be using Izo as one of our main searchers. And then we have the new Marco. For those of you that don't know what the new Marco does, he's basically like Vista, but bigger and sexier. So he's a 5 mana 6A, which is already a great stat line. 6K is a big number. He has a 1K counter tagline as well that states, on your turn, on play, knock out one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So he comes down, he goes ahead and KOs something, and then he also has the added benefit of being a Phoenix. On KO, you may trash one event card from your hand to replay this character in a rested position. So he has the revive ability that the blocker has. This one's just a little bit more offensive, giving you board pressure, and then you can just continuously use him offensively to win the game. Now we're going to pair all of these fantastic characters with a plethora of really strong event cards. We've got the Radical Beam, ridiculous card. We're going to be using the Whitebeard Pirates. We just want to see some amount of these characters, right? We don't want to just concede infinitely. We want to get to our very, very strong characters. We want to just go Marco into Marco into Marco and try to kind of keep the mid game in our favor, then equalize it with an ace and then take it from there. Then we have one of these new cards that came, and it's very specifically to Portuguese, the Ace. We've got the Flame Emperor, and my goodness, what a beautiful card, what a thematic card. You've got Ace just holding up the sun. What this card says is main. If your leader is Ace, knock out one of your opponent's characters with 8,000 power or less. Then your leader gains double attack and 3,000 power during this turn. Holy moly. So not only can we make our leader an 8k for 7 Dawn, we can go put one more Dawn, make a 9k double strike leader. So again, if we just continuously deal with the board in the mid game, we get to the late game and we can become an absolute monster. Then we have access to a card such as Crossfire. Crossfire is another new card with a really interesting tagline. It has a main and a counter, so it can be used either offensively or defensively, similar to what the Ace leader wants to do. If your leader is a Whitebeard Pirates in its types, give one of your opponent's characters minus 4,000 power during this turn. There's a 2-mana 4k counter in a sense, and it can also be used offensively to go minus 4k, and then you can Marco it. And you can remove all the way up to 7k bodies with just 7 Dawn. So it's kind of an equal trade-off. Let's say they play a 7-drop Eustace Captain Kidd. Well, you pay 7 Dawn to immediately clear it while creating a big threat for yourself. So very, very powerful card. And then we have one of the cards that really is something that's eye-opening for me. We got Fire Fist. It also comes in an alt art, I believe. This card is really interesting because it says main. You may discard one event card from your hand, knock out one of your opponent's characters with 5,000 power or less, and up to one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. So again, this is another card that you can combo with Crossfire, and this is a card that really kind of deals with that conceding of the board in the early game, right? So we're just letting them do their thing in the early game, and we have a lot of really strong catch-up mechanics. We're going to be playing 3 of Guard Point, 3 of the Gum Gum Jet Pistol, and then we're going to be playing our little boat Striker. So our stage for Ace is really interesting. It says active main, pay 2 Dawn, and I can continuously every turn look at the top 5 cards of my deck, reveal up to one event from it, and add it to my hand. So again, in the late game, I'm just going to continuously be adding very, very powerful events, whether they be offensive or defensive, maximizing my very powerful Whitebeard Pirates and trying to win the game from there. So let's get into some games and let's see what Ace can do. Alright, so for our first game, we've got kind of a different little matchup. We've got Ace versus the Kaido. Now, Kaido had the choice to make me go first or second. I think he ended up making me go second, hoping to get what I'm assuming is the Onigashima early. So I start off with a really solid curve of the Whitebeard Pirates and the Izo. So basically, as you can see from my hand, I'm not really doing much in these next couple of turns, but I will be just accepting all these damages. Flame Emperor could have triggered there to destroy the Don Quixote, but I think that card is just a little bit too important for me to use in that fashion. So I go ahead, play another Whitebeard Pirates to grab me another Izo because everything else there was not it. I'll swing for a 7, not use ability. He goes ahead and blocks the 7, play another Izo, and I finally can grab some of my Marcos. These cards are really, really strong. And I think I opt to go for the Marco that removes cards. He goes and plays another Don Quixote do Flamengo blocker. But I'm fine with this. He swings at me for 7. I'm going to accept that as well. Ooh, another Izo. So I think I want to keep pressuring him while also playing cards. Like I can also slam down the Marco here. But, you know, there's a couple moves that I can make. I am at 6 Dawn, but I think I'm going to opt to go for the Striker to grab a Radical Beam. Unfortunately, I do bottom deck another Ace. I'll go 7 at leader again. He takes another block. I play another Izo, grab another Marco. And man, I have a lot of cards in my hand. I've got a lot of value, but I am at 3 life. He goes ahead and plays the King. Sad times for me. He goes ahead and gives me another card in my hand. And then I have the Cross Shot, which I'm going to choose to go Cross Shot Marco just to get that Marco out. And then I'm going to go ahead and 6 my opponent, opt not to use the leader effect, and he takes that hit finally. So I have a Marco down, and now it's time for me to start really applying the pressure. He goes 7 at my 8. Sure, I'll go down to 1. And then this turn, I am finally at 10 Dawn, but I want to see how I want to deploy this turn out. I kind of want to put some pressure, so I'll go 5 with the Izo. He'll give me a 2k. I'll go 5 again since he showed me a 2k on a 5. He will go ahead and do Hell's Judgment, which is going to stop my Marco from attacking. I'll go ahead and deploy. I'll use the ability of my Striker, and then I will pass my turn, keeping 1 Dawn up, because as long as I have 1 Dawn up and I have Radical Beam plus all these events in my hand, I do feel rather safe. He opts to go the 9-drop Kaido. 9-drop Kaido is going to go ahead, and he's going to target my Marco. Now, I don't think I'm going to need this Ace per se, so I'm going to go ahead and pitch it to play my Marco right back. He goes 6 at my Izo. I let the Izo go. He taps his Onigashima again, so he's going to be going back to 9 Dawn on the following turn. And I do have to kind of counter out of this one. Can't go down to 0 versus such an aggressive deck, but he's lost a lot of hand size, so I'm going to go ahead and cross shot again. I'm going to swing at it just to get a card out of his hand. Gives me a 2k, and then I'm going to go ahead and Flame Emperor. Going to swing 8k. Yeah, I could have swung 9. I'm going to pitch a card out of here, the Flash Fire, to give him a double strike. I'm going to pass my turn. So it goes down to 1-1. We both have about equivalent hand size, but I got 2 Marcos on my board, as well as my striker stage that's going to let me outvalue him over time. So I do have a lot of 2Ks. I got another Flame Emperor in my hand, so if he ever drops something large, I'm able to handle it. But he does have the second 9-drop, and that's kind of what this deck wants to do. It wants to go back-to-back on the 9 drops. I'm going to go ahead and pitch another Flash Fire, because he's not going to be able to summon anything this turn. I do believe I allow him to hit me. I'll take the 10. And then with no Dawn active, I think I can just go ahead and try to do a little bit of a lethal push here. He's got 5 cards in hand. I'm going to go 7. 7's going to be able to rip a bunch of cards out of his hand. Rips the 2. I'm going to go 2. Maybe he should have swung with like Ezo, because Ace is the card that can boost up. But he takes the 7, and then if he takes 7, he triggers Hell's Judgment. I go ahead and just return one of the Dawns that I've already used, and then 12 is impossible, especially with all the 2Ks in his hand. For our next game, we're going to be playing against Zephyr. So Zephyr is a deck that got a bit of a popularity in OPO2 and OPO3. I know that this deck is very popular in Latin America, as it's won a couple of regionals, but we don't really see it in our North American meta. Go ahead and play Ezo, and I'm going to choose to be aggressive versus the Z player. I'm going to have to use my cards in an aggressive manner, because like I said, if my deck isn't doing anything, which this turn I could have summoned an Ezo and like passed, I'd rather just make him, you know, give me cards in hand or to apply pressure to his leaders. So he goes ahead and pitches a Kobe and takes the second hit. So already pretty advanced. If he wants to put 1 Dawn, I don't really know what the 1 Dawn is about here, because I'm not sure. I guess he was just trying to tap out entirely, since he planned on playing the Uda, or the ulti, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to just go 5 at lead. This turn I'm going to have to just play a card. I'm going to decide to play the Marco here, or maybe I can go Ezo. Ezo will grab me another Marco. Now I have that as a possibility, and then I can drop the blocker Marco. So if he does have a card to KO my blocker, that does feel kind of bad, and that's kind of why this deck wants to go all the way down to 2 life pretty easily, pretty consistently, because not only does it trigger your Radical Beams, it does trigger the ability of your second mates. So he plays a Kuzan. I'm going to go ahead and Flame Emperor. I didn't want to really summon any other card from my hand. I think this is the best way to apply pressure while also dealing with his board. And then he just gives me a Impact Wave. So originally, I knew he had Impact Wave since basically the beginning of the game, the way that he was playing. He plays another Kuzan. So yeah, Kuzan's one of the better cards for Z, as it just kind of allows him to summon a threat while also continuing to have hand advantage. Just a very powerful card in general. He goes ahead and attaches 2 Dawn to ulti, and I'm assuming he's just going to go face. That's going to go ahead and get me down to the lovely 2 threshold. I'm going to go ahead and counter out of the 6, and he's going to keep up 2 for another very powerful event spell. Most possibly a Hell's Judgment. There's also Thunder Bagua or Impact Wave. It's very difficult to tell with Z which one it is exactly that they have, so you kind of have to play accordingly. Now, I do have this Kuzan that is posing some sort of threat here. I'm going to completely ignore this ulti because I don't really care that it's on the board. I'm going to go ahead and swing for 5, and that's going to give me immediately the Impact Wave, which I'm down. I'm going to go ahead and play the Striker. I'm going to look for any card at this point in time. Now, Flash Fire is not a bad card to use right here, but at the same time, I'm not necessarily sure I want to give up the card, so I'll let him have the Kuzan for now, and I'm just going to go ahead and develop another Marco. If I do play the Flash Fist or the Fire Fist, it doesn't really continue to develop my board state, and I know he's coming down with a 10-drop on the following turn. So there is the 10-drop that comes down. It's going to go ahead and destroy my blocker on summon. I'm going to go ahead and pitch my Flash Fire just to summon it right back. I didn't really want to give anything. I want to use my Ace offensively this game, but maybe I don't think I might not have time to even summon it. So he goes 5 at my 5. I'm just going to remove a 2k from my hand. I should have probably removed the Jozu instead of the Otama, but that's a mistake. So he's going to remove a lot of cards from my hand this turn. And yeah, by removing the Otama, I put myself in a weird spot, right? Because if I did have Flame Emperor, I could always go Otama Flame Emperor, which is an out to the 10-drop. But by doing this, I put myself in a pretty weird spot. So I'm going to just go ahead and swing at him for bases. make sure that he has to give me as many cards as possible. See right here, I would have been able to get the Flame Emperor, which would have been pretty sick. So at this point in time, I will grab it just for next turn to give myself a possible lethal, right? Because this ace is probably going to connect right now. And the next turn, if I go Flame Emperor, like a blocker, maybe if he summons like a queen, I have it out for that. Then I can go swing with ace, dump the rest of my spells in hand, and then just go game with my board. So I'm going to go offensively here. There's no point in leaving my blocker up because he can't really lethal me with only one character and a leader, and I'm at 2 life. So I'm just going to have him give me as many cards in hand as physically possible. Now that he's down to 2 life, my ace plus Flame Emperor can really put in some damage on the following turn, and me having Radical Beam plus 2/2Ks is really darn solid. So let's see how he wants to go about doing this turn. He starts off with the Great Eruption. Going to go 10 at 6. No point in blocking this. I'm going to let it resolve. And I'm going to go ahead and pitch a Radical Beam here. It's the same thing. It's like if Radical Beam was a 5k defense instead of a 4. Not a huge bump, but I'll take it. He then goes Kobe. Kobe's going to go ahead and target the ace, as ace is the only one that isn't immortal. And then he's going to go ahead and attach 2 to his leader. 4 to his leader. And then he's going to go ahead and -4. He's going to go 10 at the Marco. I'm going to go ahead and pitch the Flame Emperor because he didn't summon a blocker. And I'm going to go ahead and pitch a Jozu here as well. So he's down to 3 cards in hand at this point in time. I do have these Radical Beams. I'm going to go 7 and see what I can do this turn, right? If he gives me 2 cards here, then I can remove his Kuzan. And then he's just out of Dawn, right? I can just go ahead and aggressively remove the Kuzan. Since he didn't, and he added a card, and it makes it more difficult to defend the Kuzan. So he goes ahead and gives me 2 cards here. I'm going to go 7 with this as well. He's probably going to go down to 0. And I'll use my stage here. Like, I could go with the Jozu and try to lethal him, but that just seems really, really troll. He goes ahead and plays Great Eruption, which causes me to remove a card from my hand. I'll just keep the Radical Beams as they're just too powerful. And then my stage can grab me a Whitebeard Pirate, which can then grab me another card, or I can just grab any sort of like event spell that I want at this time. So I go for the Whitebeard Pirates. I'm going to go ahead and trigger it anyways. Grab an Ezo, as Ezo can be any card I want. And it's just a 1k at this time, so I'll take a 1k instead of the ace. And he's down to 0 life, 3 cards in hand. He just pitched a blocker. So if he isn't able to remove my board in its entirety, then he's going to be in a bad spot. And the fact that he's very low on Dawn, so I'm going to take this hit, force him to like try to go for a game. So he goes 8, I'll take it. He goes and uses his leader ability to pop it. I'm going to go ahead and pitch a Radical Beam, which is super BM, right? It's going to be Flame Emperor, because I don't need a Radical Beam to out-counter this Kuzan. I go Radical Beam 2k, and then on my turn, I can just push for a game. And my opponent has disconnected. And for our last game here, we're going to be playing versus Big Mama, the black and yellow deck, black and yellow, which is really interesting. It's more of a control deck than I would have originally thought. It's a deck that's going to choose to go all the way down to 1 life as fast as possible, and then use Big Mama's ability to go ahead and continuously gain a life, which ends up being a draw card. So I go ahead and swing for 5, play my stage. The earlier I can use this stage, the better, as I can just start getting value. Now, I could have gone for the classic 5-5 there this turn with the Ezo and my ace leader, but I opted not to. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this 5, and then he plays Cracker. Now, Cracker is a very terrifying card, so I opt to just pistol it off the bat, and then I'll go 6 at lead, and he'll probably accept the 6. There's no reason not to, just by the way that Big Mama necessarily works. So that Dawn could have just been left up for anything that I wanted to, but at the end of the day, I'm going to take any hits that the opponent gives me anyway. So big hands for both of us. This is going to be quite a long game. Goes ahead and declares an attack. I opt to accept it with the guard point, and they go ahead and summon a Kuzan. Now, Kuzan, kind of scary, and I do have the answer, but always summoning an Otama with a leader that isn't like Zoro feels terrible, as I don't have Makino on my deck to make it an attacker. I don't have a way to add it back to my hand like Law does, so using it in this specific manner doesn't feel great, but I had to remove the Kuzan. That card just scares me too much. Maybe I overvalue the Kuzan too much. My opponent opts to go Impact Wave here to remove my Ezo, which is absolutely fine. Removing one of these big event spells is perfectly a-okay with me. Ends up going 5 at my lead. Again, I believe I just take this one as well, go all the way down to 2 to just trigger my Marcos. I'm here thinking if I want to just defend this, and I opt to defend it by pitching a Marco. I hate losing Marcos. That guy's so cool. It goes back to my turn. I do have the Flash Fire, which is going to be really nice, but it doesn't completely handle the board, so I'll opt to go ahead and use the Striker stage to go ahead and see if I can find an out. I do grab a pistol. I'm going to go ahead and just pistol the Kuzan. I'm going to go 7, 5, keep up 2, and we're having a good time. Let's see what opponent... I think the 7 they do end up taking, because this is now a pretty difficult card not to accept, right? Because if they... The only option that they have here is that the new yellow spell, which he does have, that goes ahead and reduces my character by 3,000, making him pseudo like a guard point. And then I go 7, and then he accepts that one, right? So now we're gonna start seeing the Big Mom effect really just churn, and we're gonna see add 2 Dawn when attacking. They're at 1 life. They'll go ahead and heal 1. So now they're every turn swinging at me for 7, while always continuously adding a card to their life. Now they play a Borzolino, and Borzolino is kind of one of the bigger reasons why you want to go ahead and play the black-yellow deck, because it's just a very powerful card. Not just Borzolino, but obviously the Kuzans and the Sakazukis. So I opt to go ahead and use the Striker stage here. Gonna go swing for base numbers. No point in doing anything too crazy at this time. My hand doesn't look too great at this point. There's a part of me that kind of wants to go ahead and just like use another Striker stage, but the best way to go about it is just deploy both Marcos here. I just need to start summoning actual bodies that are just going to eventually outvalue my opponent. My hand is huge. There's no need to like try and apply pressure, because at this point they're just going to, by me leaving them at 1 life, it just kind of taxes them 2 Dawn every turn, right? So this turn, it's pretty grafted that the mom is going to go put 2 Dawn under herself, swing, heal 1, right? Not to deal with 8 other Dawn. Go ahead and pitches a Sakazuki, and I'll go ahead and defend with a Jozu, because it swung at the Marco, right? Didn't want to really pitch one of my event spells, but I could have. Cross Shot is a really strong one that I can use offensively later. Goes 5 at my lead. I'm just going to pitch the stage. There's no point in... And that's what's really cool about Ace. That felt really nice. That actually didn't feel horrible. Then plays another Kuzan, and it's back to my turn here. Now I have an Ace card. Now this Ace character card is going to be huge, right? It's going to be allowing me to just remove everything and go ahead and swing over the Tashigi. I'll place 1 Dawn under the Marco. Now you have to deal with 7, and if you choose to block with Borzolino here, your Borzolino is kind of gone. And I'm just going to use my entire board to just swing very offensively this turn. Keep up 2 Dawn, goes ahead and impacts waves. Sure, here's another 7. And then it took me a little bit to decide. Like I should have probably, I think I opt to swing with one of the Marcos, but I probably should have swung with a Marco before I swung with the Ace. So I should have like 6'd and then 7'd. And then I'm deciding here if I want to just 6 again. But I think I opted not to. Keeping up 1 blocker plus all of these events in hand is much more safe for my board at this current time. So I think it's just a little bit better. One thing that's really important to note is that the effect of Ace when it comes to defending your leader with event spells, it's only for the leader. It's not for your characters, which is a mistake that a lot of people can make early on in set 3. So if you swing at one of their characters and they go ahead and pitch like a cross shot, that's definitely not the way that the leader effect works. And my opponent goes 7 at my Ace, pitches a Kobe, and I'm just going to go ahead and pitch an Otama to defend it. So I still have a Radical Beam, 2 guard points. They opt to play a Borzolino and pass. I'll use the stage here. Stage is going to grab me Flame Emperor, which is just broken. And we're just going to swing for base numbers here. You got to show me your hand or show me your Borzolino blockers. He blocked the Borzolino. I'll go ahead and take it. I'll swing for 8 for 2 checks. Let's see if they opt to let this one go through. They impact wave, and then I just pass my turn. So we removed one of the big threats, which was the Borzolino. We're able to remove a bunch of counters from their hand, and now they have 5 cards in hand left. They can't even use Big Mom's effect this turn, so they won't be able to draw a card. If he swings at my face, I accept it this time. Now the scariest card that it could possibly be at this point in time is the 10 drop, right? So if he goes 10 drop Big Mom and he removes my last life while healing a life, that might be quite scary for me. He opts to use Soul Pockets. I just give him a life. I'm not going to crit myself because I'm going to play the long game. Like that's exactly what my leader wants to do. So Soul Pockets doesn't really mean anything to me. Going to go ahead and use the stage. Stage is going to... Oh, sorry. I used Whitebeard Pirates. Whitebeard Pirates grabs me Ezo. Stage grabs me Flame Emperor. And just in the course of a couple turns, I went from like 5 cards in hand to another like 10 cards in hand because of the stage and all these very powerful cards that I have at my disposal. So I'm just going to just Flame Emperor the Hina. And now I'm just going to do the same thing once again. 6. I'm going to go 8. See if you give me I'm going to make it a 9 with the crop by pitching the Flash Fire. He gives me the Borzolino, and I'm thinking to myself, if I attack here, then I let him Big Mom me. But you know what? I'm kind of cool with that. I'm just going to fully tap out, swing everything at him, make sure he either gives me the cards in his hand or, yep, gives me the Hina, and I swing with the other one, and there it is. So it's very difficult for him to lethal me on the next turn, even if he goes like Big Mom to burn a life is the only card that I can think of. The 7-drop, and then he has 3 Dawn available, but even with 3 Dawn available, I can go ahead, I can choose to heal him. I don't even have to crit myself, and then I'm just fully out of lethal range. So he opts to put 2 Dawn on the Big Mom, goes at Ace. I'm just going to pitch an Ezo. Doesn't really necessarily do anything. Now he's down to 3 cards in hand to my 6. Plays Sakazuki, go down to 1 card. I'll use Marco's ability, and he's immortal. And he removed a card to remove a card out of my hand. So I'll go 7 this turn, and with 1 card in hand, he definitely cannot stop me from winning the game. Then I'm just going to swing with Ace, not use any card, not use any abilities. But like I could have swung for like a bajillion. So we're back with the deck, and that deck is spicy, baby, man. I get it. Red is cringe. And I feel a lot of the community is really torn between the fact that a lot of really fantastic characters from the show have just embodied the red archetype, and red has been saturated with such a fantastic card pool that I've heard it from the community very much that red is a little much. But you can't tell me you don't feel excited for a deck like this. When you see yourself just, when you have like 8 or 9 cards in hand and they're all like super counters, my goodness. When you have these oppressive Marcos on the board just reviving every turn, like it feels almost impossible to win those game states. Even though the deck concedes a lot, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that the deck plays like almost 20-something events, and it ends up to the point where, yeah, at some point, they're going to be able to do nothing with their turn. But if they start hitting the lines, they see very, very powerful cards like this Ezo, this Striker stage, I think it consistently outvalue you. That's a situation that the deck really, really wants to be. It wants to be in a position where I can be like, you want to play the long game? I can play the long game, because all of my events are going to be extremely powerful in its forms of removal, aggression. I can be defensive, I can be offensive, and I'm always going to be drawing multiple cards a turn, while the cards on my board are almost immortal. And those are the situations that you don't want to place Ace in. You want to make sure that Ace is rushed down, you give them your hand, pushed up against a wall. If you can push this deck up against a wall, then they're going to have a very difficult time coming back. So decks like Zoro, LOL, these Whitebeard decks, that's why Ace didn't do good in the East. When Whitebeard was prevalent with the Moby Dick, it kind of pushed Ace completely out of the meta. Ace wasn't topping, Ace wasn't seeing as the success it could do, because if they're too aggressive versus this deck, what can the deck really do? And honestly, you know, even with the ban of Boatbeard, Whitebeard is still going to be a very relevant deck. The addition of Ezo as well as this Marco are going to make that deck extremely, extremely powerful. So in the right meta call, in the right situation, if you dodge the right matchups, Ace is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. The slower that the game goes, the better that Ace gets. And I hope that these games went ahead and expressed that to you. Now, I know the majority of the games that I played were versus OPO2 decks, but they were decks that honestly did better in OPO3. Blue Purple Kaido is a deck that saw some success in OPO3 in the East, as well as Z. Z being able to just -4, -4, -4 the board is kind of similar to what Ace wants to do. They make a board of immortal characters, these 10-cost Kuzans, these 7k Sakazukis, and then they just use their leader ability to make sure that you're out of the game. The fact is that when you try to play that game with Ace, the fact that I can keep up with you because of my very powerful events, while also not minusing Dawn and keeping up that power that the Dawn has, is going to allow me to outvalue you. The Big Mom did a really good job at staying at 1 life and saying, well, if you think about what Big Mom says, once you're at 1 life, you go ahead and heal 1 by discarding 1. That card that you healed will eventually be a draw, right? So you're pitching a card that has no counter, a card that has no value, for a card that may have value in the future while elongating the game. Now, I took that challenge. I said, Big Mom, you want to take the long game? I'm going to show you the long game. And then the fact that it's just honestly off the back of these Marcos that they just became impossible to deal with. Eventually, I ate through her board. These Flame Emperors just removed every single threat she slammed down, and eventually she was out of gas. So I hope this video explains to you guys exactly what Ace wants to do. I'm super excited for this deck. I cannot wait to play Ace. But we still got a month away, guys. If you like this sort of content, make sure to leave a like down below, a comment in the comment section so you can tell me what you think about the deck. I know I noticed a bunch of mistakes that I made throughout the games, but you know, being the first time that I play Ace, I think it was pretty understandable to make some of them. But I noticed once I was pitching, I pitched Otama over Jozu's a couple times. So definitely leave a comment where you saw those situations. We can talk about it in the comment section. There's always someone that hits me with a fantastic comment that says, hey, you should have done this. And it is game breaking how much you guys can tell from these rewinded videos. And as always, guys, if you're enjoying this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're almost at our 3,000 subscriber goal, where we're going to be going ahead and giving away a super pre-release red deck. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.